Webinars are the perfect addition to your inbound toolkit, efficiently showcasing your company's skills, assuring a real-time interaction with your prospects, and becoming a valuable piece of authoritative content when it's done right. 62% of all B2B marketers use webinars in their content marketing strategy to entice new leads and move existing ones down the sales funnel. So, are you keen to get learning? Well, let's get started. Howdy, it's Travis from Neighborhood, where we help brands find, sell, and keep their people. By definition, a webinar is simply a web-based seminar. While most companies execute an event marketing strategy that involves face-to-face interaction, maybe a networking event or a thank you dinner, with webinars, location is definitely not an issue. Businesses who decide to create and host a webinar give any person living anywhere in the world the opportunity to participate at the exact same time. While you might think that doing these events takes away the human connection, it's entirely the opposite. Webinar software enables the host to provide a virtual connection to the attendees in the comfort of their own home or office. It's important to start by asking yourself whether you should produce a webinar in the first place. Here's the truth about why there are so many painfully long, boring webinars out there. Many marketers don't produce a webinar because it will be useful to their audience, but rather because they think it'll be a great lead generation tool. Ensure you ask yourself honestly, am I providing genuine value? If you can't work that out, then think about whether you want to watch your own webinar. Would you be willing to drop everything and sit glued to the screen to watch your own webinar? So here's the take home. Most people are too busy to stop what they're doing and watch a webinar that doesn't interest them. So let's get on their level. As well as this, you might want to ensure that the content that you're assigning to your webinar is webinar worthy. In other words, is your idea well suited to the webinar format? It's also worth remembering that lying to your attendees with the promises of a sensational content and then failing to provide the goods is absolutely not a good look for you or your business. Being all chat and no game is actually a one-way ticket to get on the bad side of your audience and tarnish your overall reputation. Once you've put in the groundwork though, and have really sat and thought objectively about whether your webinar will be a winner, then you can get started. The first step to building a webinar is to firstly choose your topic. Choosing a relevant topic is the key to delivering a webinar that works. In short, answer the questions that your prospects are asking. Next up is to set up the webinar software so you can go ahead and actually create the event itself. This will allow you to immediately send registered users information with the link to check out the webinar and then to go ahead and set up the basics ahead of time. Here at Neighborhood, we use a platform called 23 for our webinars to eliminate the manual webinar process by bringing landing pages, emails, production, and on-demand videos onto a single tool, and allowing marketers to gauge a full understanding of its performance. So now that you've got the software set up, the topic and the date locked in, all we need is signups. You need to be setting this up at least 2 weeks before D-Day. So don't worry if you don't have a full presentation all fleshed out just yet. By this point, you should have some bullet points as to what you're going to be talking about and exactly what your audience will be getting out of this webinar. Take this knowledge and then create a landing page that features a summary explaining how the webinar will affect and benefit the attendees. And be sure to position the event host as an expert on the subject, as you won't see nearly as many registrations otherwise. And now for the all-important bit, writing the content. It's important to know, however, that writing content intended to be read and to be spoken is completely different. Keep it brief with dot points and the main areas to cover flowing through your logical presentation, so that you have plenty of room to explain things that sounds natural. So in order to keep viewers engaged and keep the good vibes flowing, it's helpful to incorporate humor, pop culture, references, or famous figures in breaking up the presentation. This also works to reduce the salesy aspect of some webinars, which can be further reduced by making a concerted effort to be helpful, demonstrate how it can take an action and best practices. This is what will sell, not aggressive promotion of your brand. Next on the list is to start getting the word out about the webinar. Email your customers and tell them to watch this space. Share it on all of your social media platforms and run ad campaigns. You could even include it in your newsletter or promote it in your personal LinkedIn to encourage signups from connections that you know could receive some benefit to it. While only a small portion of users who will sign up will actually attend the webinar, keep in mind that you're still getting their lead information. And hey, they can always watch the recording later on. Number 6 is to ensure that you've got all the appropriate equipment long before you record your webinar. For best results, you should ideally have a microphone that isn't the one that belongs on your laptop. It also suggests that you hook a second screen up as your primary computer so you can easily see your notes and the questions that people are asking. Also, if your internet connection has been playing up in the lead up to the day, ensure that you get someone over to fix it. Fix that stopping and starting to make the viewer experience as smooth and enjoyable as possible. Next up, before everything goes live, it's super important to do a trial run. Even if that means getting all of your coworkers to tune in for an hour to ask questions and make sure the flow is consistent and everything is running smoothly. Doing this, you can ensure that you can watch back the recording, that your microphone works, and that the video and sound quality is good. As well as this, if this is your first time in particular with your webinar software, it gives you a chance to get familiar with the system and recognize the glitches, so that by the time the real thing rolls around, you'll know how the platform works inside and out. It's also important for you to prepare for the worst from experience again. Even if you're the most prepared person in the world, you simply can't predict what's going to happen when your webinar goes live. Therefore, you need to ensure that you practice. So if things do go wrong, that you'll be ready to keep it rolling. So the next step is to try to open the webinar right on the promised time, or even a little bit earlier so that users can interact with you in the waiting room. Also, make sure that you record the webinar so that it can be used as evergreen resource that you can upload to YouTube or any other social media channel later on. We sent out our webinar recording in our monthly newsletter and posted it to social channels guarded behind landing pages to encourage lead generation far after the webinar took place. Some best practices to keep in mind when you're actually running the webinar is to include remembering to take questions during the webinar. You should also be sure to let users know at the beginning that the recording will be online after the webinar too. Be sure to include an offer at the end for your products and services, but don't aggressively sell them throughout the whole presentation. Last of all, watch your chat box or get one of your co-workers to do it for you, because if all of your attendees are typing that they can't hear you, you want to be fixing that straight away. Last up, ensure that you send up follow-up emails just asking for a bit of feedback. After weeks of prep and planning, I'd say the last thing that you want to do is think about how you can be doing it better next time. But the world of webinars doesn't sleep. Here's why you should follow up with your participants after the event. One, firstly, unless your participants have never seen a webinar before, they're most likely developed a protocol in their heads where getting a follow-up email is expected. Number two, sending a follow-up email also cements relationship. As the webinar creator, you'll spend ages working on your first promotional campaign to build an audience. If they've given you a chance, the last thing that you want to do is lose them. Number three, follow-up emails are also perfect fodder for lead nurturing and a great way to establish that link while your participants still remember you. Once the foundation is set, all you've got to do is keep in touch with them to see those leads maturing into paying customers. In conducting our first webinar, we found that integrating great content with actionable tips and a bigger focus on helping instead of selling is, ironically enough, the best way to sell your products and services. So if webinars aren't currently a part of your inbound strategy, now you can see why they should be. To develop authority, trust, create relationships, build brand awareness, and qualified leads. So if you found this video helpful, then feel free to share it with somebody that you know that needs a hand getting off the ground with some webinars. You can also subscribe to our blog where you'll find a bunch more tools, tips, and templates to help you find, sell, and keep your people, just like Neighborhood does. And that's it from me. Happy marketing.